My name's Monica Abbott. I was a two-time Olympian in softball, a pitcher. I hold a ton of different records. Feel free to look them up if you want, but some of my favorite ones that a lot of people talk about are I hold the record for fastest pitch ever thrown, which is 77 miles per hour. It's a Guinness Book of World Records. And then I also hold the NCAA strikeout record. And I am the only pitcher to ever throw a perfect game in the Olympics. So that's kind of like my career in a nutshell. I played at the University of Tennessee. Let's go Lady Vols today. And then I played professionally, both in the United States for the Chicago Bandits, the Scrapyard Dogs, and obviously for Team USA. And then I also played overseas in Japan, and retired in 2022, 21, something like that. 21, 22, 22, in spring of 22. So now I do a lot of coaching. Over the course of my career, I've tried to be an educator in the sport and gone out to multiple organizations to coach pitching and teach. At the end of my career, I decided I wanted to write a book. And that book is called Rise and Shine, the Monica Abbott story, which kind of talks about my life and how this girl from Salinas, California, which is, we grow lettuce, a farming community, we grow lettuce, how she made it all the way to the world stage and beyond her wildest dreams. And after I wrote that book, I was so thrilled. I was like, yes, finally I finished it. Like a book is a big project, y'all. It is a big project. And it took a while to get done. I was happy with it. And I was like feeling good. And I was like, you know what? I really motivated these athletes. They're going to read this. They're going to be so excited. And then it hit me. I went to an event and it hit me. And I was like teaching these girls and talking about the book. And I was like, oh my gosh. I motivated them, but I did not give them an action plan. Okay. I didn't give them the how-to. I didn't give them the game plan, so to speak, of how to apply what happened to me to their own lives. And that is where we came up with Abbott's A-List, 14 actions to help you set goals and get more out of life in sport. So that's how Abbott's A-List came about. And so it says 14 actions, obviously number 14. So we came up with 14 things. I came up with 14 things with a little help and brainstorming with the authors. Excuse me. 14 things that I felt like were themes in my career that helped change who I was as an athlete and helped impact my ability and my skill. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about a few. So the first one I picked out is going to be like your total basic one, right? And this one I thought I wanted to apply more to our 12U and our younger age groups. Now, I think it's important at every age group to do this, but especially impactful at our 12s and I would say 14s. And this is number one, it's set goals. Set goals early to reach your dreams, okay? You can see that. So this talks about, obviously, you want to set goals. What are your biggest goals? But it also talks about setting that big, wild, crazy, impossible goal and writing it at the top no matter each season that you go through in softball, whether it's the fall season or the summer season, writing out that big, crazy, wild, impossible dream at the very top of your goal list. And for me at 12 years old, it was, I'm going to play for Team USA. I'm going to go to the Olympics. Okay. Now at 12 years old, mind you guys, like unbelievable. I know you're probably thinking, well, of course that happened, came true, right? Well, actually at 12 years old, I hadn't even started pitching yet. Okay. So think about that. Like I'm a 12-year-old Monica Abbott. I was playing right field on my rec team and I hadn't even started pitching. And I wrote that I'm going to go to the Olympics to play softball on my goal sheet for that softball season. Okay, so I think we all know how powerful goals are This takes it a step further, because not only having that big, crazy, impossible goal that's like above and beyond, but what are the goals that might seem out of reach for your team? Is it winning nationals? Is it going to nationals? Is it throwing a no-hitter? Is it hitting a home run? You know, and listing out some of those fun things that maybe your athletes haven't reached yet. You know, can they hit a triple? You know, can they go 4 for 4 in a game? And once you set those, if you turn it to the following page, it kind of takes you through, obviously, how do you achieve it? So in my case, I wrote like this crazy impossible dream at the top, and then I wrote a couple other, you know, win this tournament, throw a no-hitter, hit a home run, and get 5 RBIs, or, you know, like this was my 12-year-old version of my goal list, right? But, and more importantly, where we need to take our athletes is that next step after they get those, like help them think of the crazy, impossible, crazy, wild dream, but also think about the goal for the team or individual goals, right? Softball is a team sport with an individual concept, okay? So it's important for our shortstops and our right fielders and our left fielders and our bench players, everyone on the team, to have not only a big team goal, but also have that individual goal of, hey, I want to steal 5 bases. I want to hit 300 you know, in 2 tournaments, whatever it is. I want to be MVP of the team. To have those individual goals, because it helps build the competition within the team and creates the energy the team needs to be successful. But more importantly, where we as mentors and coaches need to think about is the next step, is how do we take our athletes to the next step in that goal? Okay, if I want to hit a home run, right, it just doesn't happen overnight, right? So does that mean that maybe, hey, I need to hit 1 bucket of balls after school 3 days a week at home? And giving your athletes the ability to put those details in, okay? And that's where the important things, like what is it outside of practice or in practice that they're focusing on? I need to work on hitting the inside pitch off the tee at home, okay? 1 bucket a day, okay? And for the pitchers, what I did is I wrote like, hey, right? Like I wanted to throw a no-hitter, okay? Because I thought that was really cool. How am I going to throw a no-hitter? Well, I only throw a fastball and a changeup. How can I do that? Well, I think maybe the first thing was, can I hit, let's say, 8 out of 10 fastballs on the outside corner? Okay, and that would be a sub of your process, right? The process of how to reach that goal. And underneath that would be, okay, and I need to be able to throw my changeup 8 out of 10 times, okay, for a strike. So having those sub goals, maybe 1 to 2 sub goals for that big goal, that big individual goal or that big team goal, is how we can empower our athletes to have a better process to be able to reach and achieve those amazing things. Okay. Everyone good on that? All right. Quick drink. All right. So the next one we're going to do is actually going to be number 2 of the A list. And this one is actually one of my really favorite ones. It's remember to play. And I think this one I would apply to, I think it's really important for our coaches and our guiders in the sport, especially to use this for our older athletes, right? Our 18s, our 16s, our second year 14s, right? That are going into that recruiting process, that are starting to realize, like, especially that first year 16s team, right? They're starting to realize, like, hey, I'm not having as much success as I had at 14s, right? I'm starting to get I'm starting to experience failure. I'm starting to struggle up here a little bit more, right? You know, and they get a little bit more, there's more distractions too for that age. All of a sudden, you know, they're learning to drive. They're, you know, they're in high school. They have dances and all those things that they want to do. And their friends are doing this, and softball's taking up all their time, right? And it becomes a little bit sometimes where 16U, especially, but 18s as well and beyond, you start to kind of see the sport as a job, right? See the sport as something that isn't always fun anymore, something that I'm not always smiling about. Now, sometimes I cry when I go home from the tournament. Now, sometimes I get depressed or anxiety when I'm at the game, at bat, okay? So number 2 is really important. I'm gonna read just a little bit on it, and it's called Remember to Play. And I think when we're at 16s, 18s, and even in the pros need this too. Trust me, they do. They do. Okay, but I'm just gonna read a little bit excerpt. I know you guys can all read yourselves, so I'll just read a little bit from the first part. Remember to play. Everyone talks about working hard, and the truth of the matter is that everyone works hard relative to what they are doing. Everyone is trying, and everyone is putting in good effort to accomplish their goals. I think at the end of the day, softball is a game, and it's a game you're supposed to play. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to play it with energy, and you're supposed to play it with a smile. Yes, it has ups and downs, but it is still a game. You're supposed to play with a childlike joy. When that childlike joy and love of the game shines through, that's when athletes play their best. And I think you can see that across the board, not just in my own career, but even when watching other professionals. When you see a joy, a childlike joy come out, you also see a playfulness in them. They're loose, and it reflects in the game and how they play. Okay, so when I think about Remember to Play, I think about what was so fun when you were in rec ball. Like, what made you fall in love with the game? What was so fun at 10U or 12U? And how did we lose sight of that? Because when we have the stressors of school and colleges and recruiting and just life at 16s and 18s, we forget about that. We forget about, hey, like, it's fun to do cheers. It's fun to make up our own cheers. It's fun to laugh at ourselves when we fall down rounding second base. You know, we forget about those things, and they become more traumatic instead of like, oh my gosh, how funny. Like, did you see me fall down? And being able to laugh at ourselves and bring that sense of joy and humor to our game. And when we're able to do that as an athlete and as a coaching staff, when we're able to have fun in even the most stressful moments, it brings a looseness, okay? It brings a relaxation to the team, okay? I think it's almost sometimes easier to see, right? It's easier to see on TV. It's easier to see in athletes when you're watching other teams than you are on your own, right? Like, I knew even as a professional, like, I knew I was supposed to be loose. I knew I was supposed to be relaxed and be having fun. And that's how I was going to play my best. But it doesn't take away the fact that I still felt the pressure, right? It doesn't take away the pressure. So finding a way to get the athletes to relax and stay loose by making a competitive atmosphere and a fun atmosphere with challenges and different things like that, I think is the best way to do this. But also talking to your athletes about those things in the toughest moments. So for example, like when you have a meeting after a tough loss, a tough tournament, things haven't been going well for a little bit, having your athletes remember what number 2 is. What do you love about the sport of softball? Like, what makes you happy? Circling them back to, hey, like, I love that when I get a hit and it feels like it's solid and I feel like I'm swinging nothing. It feels so relaxed. I love when I release the ball out of my pitch. When I release the ball out of a pitch and I already know where the ball is going to go and what's going to happen. and I get to watch it in slow motion from the mound. Okay, so remembering those sort of things with your athletes in those tough moments can be huge. And especially for those individual athletes, that's where us as, mentors and coaches, we need to think about is sometimes your team is playing well, but there's just that one or two athletes that put usually the pitcher. No, I'm kidding. Sometimes it's always the shortstop. Okay. They're putting the weight of the world on their shoulders, right? And when they're doing that, they've lost that childlike love of the game. Okay. So having that one-on-one conversation with them for a moment, getting them to laugh, getting them to loosen up, and just remembering what it was like to be 5 years old and be excited to put on a uniform that day, right? Because at the end of the day, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face, at the end of the day, softball is a sport we play. It's not a sport you do. No one goes to your team and say, hey, let's go to the softball field. Let's go do softball today. Do we say that? No, we say, let's go play softball. Do you want to go play softball today? Do you want to play in a tournament? Do you want to play? So don't forget that aspect of the play. Okay. So number 2 is remember to play. I saw a couple questions pop up, so I'm just going to take a quick look before we go to the last one. Is everyone doing okay? Okay. Awesome. Can you be my coach? That would be so fun, Stacia. Stacia? Okay. All right. So let me get a quick drink because I'm talking. Okay. Number 10, and this is the last one that I'll go over, and then we'll just open it up just for open conversation. But number 10 is celebrate the good. Okay. And I chose this one for you guys tonight because I know I'm going to tell you a story. Okay. So number 10, celebrate the good. I'm going to skip a few sentences and say, so sport is repetition, over and over, repetition over repetition. And that's how you develop a skill. That's how you develop athletic movement. And that's how you get good at the sport, repetition. So it's important to celebrate those little daily wins. Okay. So we all kind of know this, but I'm going to tell you a story about my rise ball. Okay. Now, if you've ever watched me throw, you know that rise ball was the go-to. All levels, all day. It was awesome. Like I threw it at actually 3 different levels, sometimes 4. Okay. It's the pitch that helped me. That was 77 miles an hour. And it's the pitch that got me all those strikeouts. Okay. The rise ball alone, I feel like I lived on it. Okay. And everybody knew it. Okay. But if we go back to first learning the rise ball, this is what I want to talk to you about because this is where it applies to you all. Okay. I was around 14, almost 15, 16 area. Okay. Actually, I think I might've been a little bit older. It was after my freshman year of high school. Okay. We were learning and my coach goes to me and he says, Monica, my pitching coach, he goes to me and he says, Monica, you're going into high school. You threw really well this year, but you're mostly throwing in and out, right? Curveball, screwball, changeup. That was it pretty much. Okay. He's like, you need something up or down to really excel at this level. Okay. You're going to be playing older girls now. If you want to do well, we need to get you up or down. He said, and then he goes to me, he goes, Monica, most pitchers, and I still believe this to this day, if we got any pitching coaches on here, most pitchers, they kind of have a knack for one or the other. Okay. Which is usually true. One of them comes a little bit easier than the other, out of rise or drop. And he said, let's try rise ball first or drop ball first. We didn't really get it. Rise ball, and I got it, right? Okay. So I go to the lesson, I learned this rise ball, a month goes by, I'm still working on it. And then we get into summer. Okay, we get into midsummer, it's July, I've been with my club team and my club coach is at my practice with my catcher and my catcher and I are just working on this rise ball. It's like a random Tuesday before a tournament. And my coach is like standing in, kind of like looking at the rise, like, how's it going? Like, can I use this in the game, basically? And he starts to say things when it's good. Okay. So I'm just throwing repetitions. And all of a sudden he goes, woo, claps his hands and does the airplane. Woo, 747 straight up. That one was straight up. I was like, what does that mean? 747. He's like an airplane. You just like lift it up, lift off. Throw a couple more. They're just doing okay. Throw a couple more, doing okay. I throw another one and he goes, woo, Rizarino. Just made up this name, Rizarino. Wow, that was good. It's like, that one elevated just like the other one. That was awesome. He's like, see if you can do it again. Do it again. Rizaruski, he says. Wow. And every time he said something like this and made some sort of action, like, wow, straight up, boom. Okay. He would be like, wow, that was like taking off on a jet, right? Like all these sort of things he would say, like, wow, that went higher than anyone can jump on a trampoline. All of these sort of things, like, did that accelerate? He would continue to kind of say these different funny things, but also really like inspiring things. And it wasn't just what he said, it was the enthusiasm and the energy he said it with, right? And when a coach says that to you as an athlete, as an individual athlete, no matter what position you play, you know what that athlete immediately does? They want to do it again. They want to repeat it, right? Sport is a game of repetition. But as soon as I heard my coach say, woo, Rizarino, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do it again. How did I do that? How did I do that? How did I do that? Okay, let me see if I can do it again. Okay, and then a couple pitches later, I do it again and he says it again. I'm like, yes. Okay. So when we talk about celebrating the wins and we talk about celebrating the little wins, it's not just like, oh, yes, we had a good win today. You know, way to get the bunt down. It's, oh my gosh, did you see where that bunt landed? It was in no man's land. Pitcher, catcher, third, first base, they all collided. That bunt changed the game. It's being that excited about something small that creates that repetition. And especially, I would challenge you guys, especially in practice, okay? Especially in your team practices. Now, I will say, if my coach did that every single time for like a month straight, it probably wouldn't have the same effect, right? So pick and choose your times wisely. Do it enough that it pumps them up, and you'll be able to see it in your athletes' faces, right? Their faces light up. They get excited. They're like, all right, I did it. Yeah, I'm going to try and do it again. They go home and tell their parents and their brothers and sisters and their teammates. So say it enough that it lights them up, right? But don't say it so much that it's overkill. Like, there's got to be a difference between, hey, that was a good nice rise ball today, versus, wow, that was a Rizarino. Okay, like that energy is different. But that energy is contagious, and that your athletes will want to repeat it over and over again. I guarantee it. And I low-key think that one of the reasons my rise ball was so good was because my coach, my travel ball coach, got excited about it. A couple practices, late June, early July, right? You're just working on a pitch, haven't really thrown it much, but wow, did it fire me up. Wow, did it make me want to keep throwing it well, right? It wanted me to remember how I was throwing it, right? So that I could do it again and again. So when we talk about celebrate the good, just remember that sport is repetition. You got to do it over and over, and that's how you develop the skill and the athletic movement. And that's how you get good at it. But if you don't celebrate those wins, when they're really good, then it's hard to repeat them. Okay. So take the moment to get excited. Take the moment to let other people be excited at it during your practices. So number 10 was celebrate the good. And